And I now will give the floor to Klaus Ziegler, very appropriately, from the AIC Technical and Health Committee, to talk to us about the challenges and what new competencies, in their view, are necessary, what challenges these new platforms present for us, multi-site conferences, and in what way all of this could represent or can represent an opportunity and not only to be seen as a threat. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Sergio, and thank you very much to Eduardo and Sergio for giving me the opportunity to be part of this general debate today. First of all, I will want to say that this will not be an academic perspective I'll be presenting. It will be a more practical and technical orientated one, of course, as I'm here as a representative of the Technical and Health Committee. Now, to start, I would like to start with a question I made myself when I was asked to be a panelist in this general debate. It's a fundamental question, and I come back to something that Malik Sy said before. I asked myself, who am I actually, and what am I doing here on this panel? Now, we could say that the question goes around, what do I consider as my profession? This can be something very different. It can be the profession of interpreter. We heard this more integrated approach from Franz Preschacker right now. It might also be my profession is conference interpreter, something that, by the way, I used to think almost for 20 years. And it might also be we consider our profession as a language service provider, all with very different or quite different approaches that hide behind those concepts. Now, it can be something in addition, of course, as well. Now, this is the question that I was asked to give you some details on behalf of the Technical and Health Committee. And I want to start in the first place saying that as a competence, what we definitely need, is flexibility. I think very often we are very extremely even flexible when we are working in the booth. But in the moment we step out of the booth, I sometimes have the impression that we show a quite impressive inertia when it comes to changes, when it comes to adapting ourselves to new developments we are seeing all around us. On the other hand, a second aspect I would like to mention is that we have to be open-minded. Open-minded. Very often we see things, or we seem to see things only through our own eyes. It sometimes is very helpful to see things from different perspectives in order to get the whole broader view. What we also need is a future-oriented mindset, and this comes very much when we talk about new technologies, which aren't very new, the ones that we know at present. If we really want to talk about new technologies, we would have to look a little bit around in the industry and see what first developments are there, which are totally different from what we are seeing nowadays in the interpreting world. Just to give you one example, we all know, because we go to the cinema every once in a while, for example, holograms, just to reflect on this issue. Again, what we need to have as a competence is the competence of seeing and understanding market needs and possibilities. We need to look around ourselves. We need to see what's happening around us. Of course, this implies some specific business skills in terms of negotiation and project management. Projects in terms of interpreting projects in the future will be quite different from what we know nowadays, and we have to adapt our competences to these and our skills to these. Technologies, we have to know the technologies we are dealing with. We have to know what the equipment we are using and what we will be using looks like, feels like, works like. We need at least to have a certain level of understanding of the functionalities of these technologies. And of course, we need the individual skills that were mentioned already from other panelists, like stress management, self-management, and health management, of course. The second question went around new spaces that could open up for interpreting in the future. Let me just mention 3 of them to give you an example, or some examples. we will see, and we are already seeing on the market actually, what we call interpreting hubs or studios with, and that's the difference to what we are seeing right now, with immersive technologies. The studios and hubs that are set up right now still work with conventional screens, with a conventional technical setup, and we will need to adapt to the future, thinking more in terms of immersive technologies. Co-working spaces is something that also might be a useful approach. It's a different way of working together, performing all the tasks we usually do at different places in one and the same place. And of course, what we also need to think about are so-called decentralized multimodal and multilingual events. Those ones who followed the debate in Cartagena might have heard from Rob Davidson what he's thinking about the event sector and what kinds of events are being developed right now there in terms of interactivity and other aspects alike. Now to the second question, the opportunities. I think opportunities are there. We need to think about new professional profiles with new specializations. We heard something about this from other panelists already. We need to address new market segments and look for new market segments like smaller events. These events I just mentioned, interactive events where people are not gathered all in the same room but are distributed throughout the whole world. And this will mean that we as interpreters have to find our place in these new spaces. And we need a redefinition, and maybe this is a possibility, of quality, what quality is and shall be for all of us. As concluding questions coming to an end, what we have to think about is, shall AIC really address all interpreting specializations or focus on interpreting? May I remind you that our basic texts speak of conference interpreting explicitly. They do not speak of interpreting in general terms. In addition, we have to think about what is conference interpreting then. And I'm sure Franz Pöschöcker will say the same. What we are missing until now is a clear and precise definition of what conference interpreting is. We know what it is not. We always say what it's not, but we should find a definition that is suitable and practicable. And we do have to look at the future societies and their demands they are imposing on us and adapt ourselves both in a technological from a technological point of view and also from a health and societal point of view in general. And what does all this mean for training, research, and continuing professional development? We just heard something about this. This is something that from the Technical and Health Committee can only be underlined. Thank you very much for your attention.